to get so much of the recording for Leslie, who continues to do an amazing job, by the way. So really applause to Leslie, who is spending time. It's an unfortunate amount of time uploading the videos and getting them onto our website so that we can all stay in the practices together. So thank you, Leslie. Always Leslie's in Israel now, actually working on that. So that's all the more appreciative and grateful to her. And so we are now at a point in our Tuesday morning teaching, the Bodhisattva path, and remembering that Bodhisattva simply means awakened heart mind, one with awakened heart mind. And for me, even maybe larger, is one who aspires, one who holds the wish, one who is willing to undergo the training towards freedom, not only for oneself, but for all beings. And if we haven't been able to see it yet, folks, what are we clear about? We are completely interconnected. And that if we are a world in division, we cannot be happy. If we are in suffering, we cannot be happy. If we are even our neighbors or another country or people on the other side of the world, right? If they are not well, we know for sure, it's very clear we also cannot be well. And this has been clear for me, that understanding has been clear for me, I think honestly, since I was a child, honestly, where I said, why does everybody have their own refrigerator? I don't understand why we can't share. Why does everybody have to have their own food? Why can't we just have it was just something that made sense to me, and the rest did not. It never has made sense to me. I suppose that's how I got to this practice and got to the Bodhisattva vow, which of course also completely made sense to me, which was we practice each moment, each breath, not only for ourselves. The benefits are not only ours. We know this, don't we? As simple as something as a smile and its impact on others. We know it's a truth. We know the truth of this, as well as what? Our aggression, our self-clinging, our fear, our pain also is shared and spread. And so with that deep understanding, then from my point of view, you are already on the Bodhisattva path. Whether you call it a Bodhisattva, whether you call it Christ consciousness, whether you call it divine source, you know, this doesn't have any particular, it's just where we've drawn from our often sometimes root teachings or teachings that just have meaning and value to us. And they're all beautiful and valuable. So I hope if you're here, one of the things that someone said to me recently was, wow, I love your teachings, but I don't think I'm a Buddhist. And I was like, well, that's handy because I don't think I'm a Buddhist either. I'm a Sufi and a Christian, and there's beautiful teachings from the Kabbalah that I deeply love. I have Jewish family history. Right. So for me, this isn't anything about a religion. It's nothing about a belief system. And it's why I try as best I can to stay practical, which is how do you really do this in real life beyond belief? And you're here. I know you're here today because some part of you goes, I know I'm better. I know the world is better. I know my relationships are better when I undertake these trainings and these practices. So no requirement. I just happen to be trained in the teachings of the Buddha, because of my meditation training and my mindfulness training, that lent itself most easily for me to be able to match my experience, my meditation experience, to what was happening, and has informed that. But there is no a better or worse. So if you're a Christian centering prayer person, and that's the practice that's right for you, I celebrate that. I think those are beautiful. I'm just going to work from these teachings because they happen to be the ones I'm most informed in, but not because I believe that there aren't other beautiful teachings that have the same. I think they're all saying the same, actually. So we're going to work on Lojong again. I'm going to have you look at, let's see if we can see it first. So I'm looking at Seth and Courtney. Can you guys see where it says point 1, or is that gone? Is point, no. So can you see maintain an awareness? Okay. So remember in the last week, we were using what these are called the 4 thoughts, or the 4 reminders. And we were using them. I actually put them into meditation. Anybody remember from last Saturday? I said, let's recollect these things. And it says, begin at the beginning. Remember that point 1? Begin with the preliminaries. That's point 1. There's 7 big points. We're not going to look at them all today, so don't worry. But point 1 was begin at the beginning. Start with these preliminaries. And the preliminaries are these 4 thoughts, or these 4 reminders. And you heard me include them in the practice last week. And it was what? Recollecting the truth of the preciousness of this human life, recollecting the truth of impermanence, the fact that, and I asked you to look, no matter what it is, a feeling, a thought, a pain, a mood, that nothing would be solid, nothing would be permanent or fixed. And I asked you to just look around, even in your own mind then. Of course, these teachings say, look, see what you can find that's permanent there. And the answer is, of course, as we know, nothing. We asked you, I talked about the reality, the natural law of cause and effect. This is not a belief at this stage. It's not saying we believe or we don't in other lives. We have opinions about rebirth. No, it says that one moment and its conditions completely are factors and contributions to the very next moment. We know this for sure as we look at qualities of mind, don't we? We know that the mind that is present this moment, unattended, unguarded, unseen, will likely play and have a clear effect on the very next moment in a way that can either be of benefit and contribute to the end of suffering, or actually can become a serious problem when not recognized and become the cause of suffering. And so that's the understanding of karma that we're using here. And pay attention. The mind that is now, in fact, I'm going to tell a little story about a little panic attack I had in the middle of the evening yesterday. It's not my usual nature, but there was a mind that I went to bed with that actually ended up having a very direct and significant impact on that. And I was like, wow, this is what they mean by karma. This is it, this negative impact, and my unwillingness to acknowledge it sooner resulted in waking up in the middle of the night and significant distress, as I know we all have, by the way. Not only waking up in the middle of the night, as we sit here in the middle of the day, right? We go, holy shit, what's going on? Where do we go with this? When does it end? What does it mean for my life? And then we remember, don't we, that we've gotten ahead of ourselves and are actually causing our suffering. and we try to get back to the body, don't we? We try to get back to the breath. We get back to the present moment where we can not only be liberated, but can awaken. So that's karma. And then the truth of suffering was the final one. And I said it differently the first time, and I know I made that confusing possibly. I said interconnectedness, which again is an element, but the truth of suffering, that if unrecognized, unattended to, samsara will not only continue, it will cycle and become a problem. So that was the first preliminary. Begin at the beginning, and those 4 thoughts are the beginning. We're going to move on today to point 2 and do a little practice with it. We've actually been working in point 2, honestly, because I asked you to regard last week and Tuesday, regard all dharmas as dreams. And then we talked for just briefly about what does that mean, regard all dharmas as dreams. And we're going to talk about it later. What I want you to know is not real. We're not saying that things are not real. We are saying that nothing is solid. Nothing is self-existing. Nothing is independently abiding on its own. That's all. And today I want to go over one that I want to practice with. This is a beautiful post-meditation practice, and it's slogan 8 down there. 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 roots of virtue. And I'm not going to say too much about it now, but I just wanted to review the Lojong. There are 59 with 7 main points. We're going to play around with point 2 and slogan 8 today. So just to clear that up, because I know people were going, is the Lojong the same as Tonglen? Yes, Lojong, in the 59 slogans, the Tonglen practice is understood to be one of the base practices. But we don't just jump there, and it doesn't even do it here. It's setting us up in point 1. Let's remember these things before we go off into Tonglen practice. I'm looking up here just to make sure that I'm checking in with the chat, and then we'll begin. I think everyone can hear me now. Are we okay that way? Okay, look, it sounds like there was just a little challenge there. I apologize if I was any part of that. I am very consistently a part of trouble, I've noticed. So let me apologize for that well in advance of anything I may actually do or not. Let's start with, I'm sorry, truly already, because I know I'll do it again. There's the computer issues. Okay, I don't want to get stuck there. We're all right. Looks like we're set. And so we're going to practice again. I'm not going to tell my panic attack story. I've only had probably 2 or 3, maybe in my whole life. And I think yesterday counts as one, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. But what's most important about that isn't anything about me. It's about the reality of our vulnerability, isn't it? It's about the reality of the vulnerability of the mind, and how when we leave it unattended, we can get not only distracted, we can get reactive. I was trying to not be reactive to something. Anthony's going to totally know what I mean when I say this. Yes, yeah, Anthony, okay, we get this. I was trying not to be reactive. I said, wow, that was troublesome. That was a problem. And I'll tell you what it is in a moment after the practice. But I was like, let's just let that go. And what we're realizing, of course, aren't we all, that that's not always skillful. That's not always helpful. And in fact, can get us in really a load of trouble. And that actually happened yesterday, because I went, oh, that's really horrible, but what can you do? You know, I had all my pith. I did not use one Lojong slogan there. I went, oh, well, you know, things are tough. everywhere, blah, 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 minimize, minimize. And I woke up in the middle of the night with reality. And so the practice that worked, actually, and I don't mean worked means got rid of, because that's not a practice that's working. So we can abandon that thought that if we could only get a practice that works, working meaning get rid of, everything would be all right. Forget it. That is not the path. That is not the practice. It will not serve you. I'm evidence. Anthony's evidence. I'll let him talk about it. We can't get rid of. The truth is everything is the path. Everything is available on the path. And then everything can be worked with on the path, but not gotten rid of. And boy, don't we try. Don't we all try? Let's just forget about it. Let's just pretend like it didn't happen. Let's focus on something else. Let's clean the refrigerator. Let's answer those emails. Let's just shut down and have another something, whether it's caramel corn martini or something else. And the practice that was most useful is the one we're going to do now. And I'm shocked to say it. It was the guru yoga practice. I'm shocked to say it because it's not a practice I have done most of my life. I have been trained in it and have not typically used it. And all the words failed. The Lojong slogans were nowhere near. By the way, I've trained in those very much so. Not one word came to me. But what did come to me was this sense that we're going to do now of the goodness that is possible in this world, this goodness that is you, the goodness that is in others, all the Buddhas, all the awakened ones, all those who have loved us. And I was able to gather those in that field of light and the light of awareness above my head, and I was able to breathe that in. And so I thought, what a beautiful life raft that is. What a beautiful life raft. No word, no other feeling, no getting out of it. Just this beautiful light of the goodness that is also available in this world. And so we'll begin the practice there. And so establishing yourself, however the posture is, let it be intentioned. And as we set the intention in the physical body, the first body, what we're also going to do is not architect it. So this is a habit, right? Once we set an intention, we get all tight and rigid and fixed, and that's not the way. But the intention is wakeful. The intention is open, receptive. The intention is that screen door that Maureen saw as beneficial last week, that we are not solid even in this established intentioned posture. So let's just set that for ourselves for a moment. And just breathe. Feel our feet, our knees, our hips. Let it be this stable base. Breathing up and into the back, the top of the head, the crown of the head. The rising path of awakening. And as we breathe down, breathing down the front of the body as we soften the forehead, the eyes, the cheeks and the jaw, let it all be soft and relaxed. Feel the weight of the shoulders, the arms. purposefully placing the hands in stillness, but open, receptive. Breathing down into the throat, the chest, the belly. And resting the mind. Another way to say this is resting in awareness. May this practice be a benefit to all beings everywhere, without exception. I keep practicing that part, without exception, omitting none, until we are all awakened and free. Breathing that in, letting that be the flash of bodhicitta. Seeing all things clearly from the truth of this. And thus we train. And so we don't grab the body tightly, we just suture it, as we talked about a couple times, just making sure there's a container here available to us. And actually the better place to rest the mind first is in that sky-like, open, spacious quality of mind. And we're going to gather all the stars in the sky, seen or unseen. We're going to gather those flickers of light and calling it to us, calling it into our awareness, calling it into this container or crucible up and above our heads. And the way this worked for me yesterday, and I'm imagining it will work in any number of ways, the way it was happening for me yesterday, it was a very dark night sky. And as the body was in restlessness and distress, I was focusing on inviting in those stars of light. And with each star, I was able to recollect a being, someone who has offered kindness, goodness, compassion, love, care. And I invited them into that crucible, that light, that container of awareness above my head. And of course, very easily, Grandma Irene and my father, my brother Michael, many beloved others, many Sangha friends, all came as one of these points of light. This is the beginning practice in the Guru Yoga, calling all that is good, all that is awakened. You can imagine a particular deity, and so in the Tibetan tradition, they imagine each of these lights, points of light, being one of the 100,000 Buddhas. And of course it's true, because in that moment of kindness, in that moment of care, in that moment of unconditional love, whatever being that was the Buddha, is the Buddha. And so, however, see how that works for you. It might be Jesus, remember another beloved other deity, calling to mind whatever activates that truth, that living truth for you. And we're going to gather them in this one large a vibrant, brilliant, radiant light above our heads. And what I noticed for myself was that not only were beings attached to that, but just moments of kindness were attached to that as well. I recollected an offering of someone, even sometimes it was anonymous, as often gifts can be. I didn't even have a being to attach to it, but the kindness was so clear, the generosity so evident, the patience, the effort, maybe even the joy. Calling all that in, placing it there above your head. And let each drop make this light more radiant, more potent, more vital. A teacher, coach, an aunt, a pet, moment. Letting the body be soft and relaxed. And then we're going to, with intention, invite this goodness, this freedom, this awakening, this presence. You can think of it in all these ways and more, I'm sure. We're going to begin to breathe it in, inviting it in right through the top of our head, the fontanelle, right into the body. And by our very invitation, we're transmuting our own body into this body of light. The light of awareness, the light of goodness. And we're letting it rest somewhere there in this general heart space. And this is a part of the teaching. And for whatever reason that I did it, I placed my hands as a shelf, really just under the chest, and sort of imagined that light just gathering and collecting there. And I needed the support, I'm imagining. I maybe couldn't even find the heart. But with that little shelf of the hands, I could really draw that radiant light, that goodness in, and let it rest. And with each in-breath, then we breathe it in. We keep it active, attentive, in present moment. We do not abandon this guru yoga practice. We stay with it. And as we are now beginning to rest in our own bodhisattva heart, protected, surrounded, guarded by all of those light points, beings, we let that just radiate so that we become ourselves this essential point of light and awareness. And we will rest here for a time. Light by its nature is purifying. It's communicative. It is inclusive. And it is infinite. Knowing continues on and on and on. Like all goodness. Like all love. And we let that light radiate in all directions as we did last week, above and below, left and right, forward and back. And everything that radiant, brilliant, infinite, open, most loving, most compassionate light touches is purified. Beginning with you. It is only through the light of awareness, through the light of compassion, through the light of loving kindness, that things are healed, that all is healed. So whatever it is, and you may place a visualization in that heart space if that's helpful for you. I couldn't find an object personally. I kept picturing others' faces, but it was the light itself that was most spacious, most open, which invited that warmth and that unification. So find out what it is for you. And we're going to be equalizing this. This is also important. So before light, that forward with it, but not back. Make sure that you equalize, bringing it forward and back. You're noticing your light source is radiant to the left, but shut down on the right. This is likely not accidental. It's just some evidence that we could use a little equanimity, and then practice breathing that open on the right. Placing the light on the right as well. And the beauty of this beautiful, radiant, open, spacious, luminous, limitless light of awareness is that it touches everything, purifies everything, unifies everything. And one of the things that Lama Kathy and I were talking about was this sense of dissolving, that this is where treat all dharmas as dreams can really be felt, that nothing it touches is solid. It is also light. And so it's connecting, but not solidifying. There is no solid object, not the self holding, not the self meditating, not the thinker, the breather. Regard all dharmas, all appearances as dreams, as points of light. That you yourself, this perceived, identified self, simply light. Let it stream through you, let it touch the parts of the body, but not solid. Just connecting points of light. All sensations become points of light, touched by the light of awareness, the light of goodness, the light of love. And resting the mind in the open space in which all light radiates. Many of the slogans in point 2 are self-liberate. That means don't become solid here. Don't become the meditator. Don't become this solid light. Just sources of light, connecting and touching. Let all appearances arise and pass. And it is then from this place, from this crucible of light, this ever-changing, radiating, dissolving and appearing sources of light, that we can then begin to turn towards the difficult. And we last week began by turning towards our inner wealth, our good karma, somebody could say, all the benefit, all the merits of our practice. Often we can begin by just making contact with that as we make contact with this beautiful radiant light, and we can send it out with each out breath. And so this is often a very workable way to begin. We can begin with the sending. And so then you can call on specific circumstances and I was able to call on this moment of difficulty that activated my distress. And we can send it benefits, merits, good medicine, blessings. And see where the natural resources flow. For me, they didn't flow to me, though I was in a panicky state. They flowed to the person, the triggering event for me, which was seeing someone die on a video, and it was very painful. And I sent it there. May you be free from suffering, free from unnecessary distress. May any benefits of my practice throughout all this time be available to you. And then we send it out on the medium of the breath. May you be free from distress. And we stay in contact then with the medium of the breath. Continuing to send out those blessings, those merits. And through the very strength of that wish, through the very fortitude of the aspiration, the wish for relief of distress or suffering, what naturally happened, and I did not intention this, was that I began naturally to breathe in the suffering of this other. It became very clear that there was another equalizing step to take, that I could relieve the suffering not only by sending the wishes, the blessings, and the merits. I could take it because I knew that suffering too. I was in distress as well. And in contact with that, I could commit myself. May I take this suffering in for us both. This panic, this fear. Since it's already here, it was very clear that I could use it right there with the heart of compassion to breathe for us both. Taking in the suffering and equalizing it immediately by sending out relief. And you can recollect your own situation, your own distress, as we did last week, the distress of another, being made contact with like points of light. And each contact making that light more radiant, more purifying, more connecting. And this is the use of both relative and ultimate bodhicitta here. The relative is the suffering that is present, that is in this world, this is in this person who was suffering, and the suffering in me. My distress for her, my distress for myself. And it became my distress for all of us who confront impermanence, aging, illness, and death. It's uncertainty. It's reality. And remembering that if we notice that we get distracted or we shut down, we may have used up our most available resource. The light of awareness, wisdom, and compassion may be exhausted. And so we only do this sending and taking practice for a few moments. And then it's really important not to get overwhelmed, not to flood. You may have gone too far. Then it's really important to settle back. Settle back into that radiant heart. Settle back into the light that is radiating out in all of open space. Those light points moving in all directions. And if it feels available to you, you can let go of the breath itself, just resting in that vast open space, if that's available to you. And if it isn't, you can rest in the breath, but not the breath contained. We rest in that breath that on the out breath moves outward into open space. We don't want to solidify anything here, including the breath. Let that breath become air as we have practiced. There's nothing else to do here. We rest in Alya, open, spacious, luminous mind. And if you notice the mind looking for something to do, commit yourself to simply resting. May this practice contribute to the end of suffering and the freedom and awakening of all beings. So take a moment. See if you can bring some of that spaciousness with you. Move the body, see if you can't begin to create a little space there as well. So that's a slightly different version. And it was one that I wanted to offer because it was the one that I used yesterday. And it didn't come with much language. And so I want you to know, even when that doesn't feel available, there really is a way to work with it. Even when the phrases aren't there, that part of the mind is gone. That there really is a way to still work with the reality, the felt sense. And so I thought I'd offer that. And so any questions, let's start there. Any questions about this practice, either in your using the practice, seeing how you can work with it throughout the week and working with the medium of the breath, and then how you might have worked with it or experienced it today. And so I'd like to hear from you. You are also teachers in this. Either chat in or come on and say hello.
Hi, Di. This is Greg.
Hi, Greg.
I experienced it mostly with a specific person in mind, sending my love and opening to my compassion and feeling just some pain and my own pain in that regard. And it's a very good way, I think, to really understand my connectedness.
Isn't it?
I
Yeah.
just completely felt it, you know.
Yeah, and could you feel the relief or the space to hold both, that it was available?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this would happen for me, Greg. You know, we solidify ourselves and the other and the pain, both in ourselves and others, and then it becomes fairly unworkable, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And we separate it. We project it. You over there, if only you something, or I've gotta over here. And really, this practice for me yesterday, I had to say, it really broke down all the barriers.
Yeah.
It broke them down, just like you're saying. And it didn't feel like my pain, your pain. It did feel like the truth of pain.
And I couldn't know, exactly what's going on, what all the causes and conditions of the other's pain are.
Yep.
Just know that the pain is there, and
That's right.
feeling the compassion for that.
And maybe that's more important than trying to know what cannot be known.
Yep.
Right. You could spend a lot of time, couldn't you, distracted, thinking about, well, what about this and what about that? And it's not that there isn't time for that consideration. But I think without holding it first ourselves, there's no possibility for seeing what's most true. And our willingness to hold it also really creates something larger than the analytics, right? About, well, this factor, that factor, this other, the ninth factor. By the way, I think likely all accurate and true. And but I'm noticing that as I was able to just hold this truth of suffering, breathe into it, let it be true, let my own pain be true, it really became just these points of light radiating and dissolving the solidity of it all. And so I'll, just for context, Greg, and maybe you have one also. So what I understood as I woke up in the, like, I feel like I'm dying. Now, I've done this before at other points in practice. In fact, I almost quit practice. And of course, the senior Sangha know this 9 or 10 years into the practice, because I was waking up every night feeling like I was dying, literally in a panic, feeling like I was dying. And I did that for almost 2 years. And I had then used the practice rather unskillfully, but with some necessity to try to get out of that feeling. And I saw all kinds of teachers. I can't even tell you all the teachers I saw, from Lama Surya Das to Guy Armstrong to Steve Armstrong to Jack Cornfield. I mean, I went to everybody with the question, how do I get rid of this? And I hated all the answers. I just didn't like them. And all the answers were, I don't know how to get rid of it, but you might try being with it. And I was like, yeah, no, you're missing my point. Not at all. Of course, I was missing the point. And so I stuck with it, you know, who knows for what reasons, but I saw something in it. Well, this was somewhat similar yesterday. I haven't had that in a very long time, but I have a little wisdom attached to it. And so I didn't, though it certainly had rattled the body mind, there was enough awareness present to not fall into the well, but the body was doing what it was doing. My heart was racing. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And then I remembered that I had really just before bed been sent a video, and I'm not going to recommend it, of a woman who was dying over 9 days of COVID. And she videotaped some critical moments and statements each day as she was dying. She didn't know, of course, she knew she was getting worse. She knew, right? And I was so impacted by the truth of this, that there are so many loved ones, so many people dying, that this is a reality in spite of the politics, in spite of your belief thoughts, that there is suffering, both because of this, and there was suffering before, and there's suffering that will continue. And her death really impacted me. She struggled. It showed some of the struggle. It was very difficult. And so I went, well, this is the truth. That was my paste on some, you know, slogan, this is life as it is. This happens in life. You know, life is uncertain, life is impermanent. I think probably those thoughts occurred to me, but I was using them actually, and I was using them to get rid of the feeling. I was using them to push this distress that I genuinely felt, and the compassion for her and the family that I genuinely felt away, which is life is as it is. And there used to be that, what was that phrase when somebody would say it, it would make me, it is as it is. Now, by the way, all true, but it drives me crazy when people paste that on instead of feeling the truth of the depth, the brevity.
Well, you said to me one time, you know,
yes,
really was help was to, you know, just open to the not wanting, and
yes,
and you know, not opening to that, my heart couldn't open really, and I couldn't feel it. I couldn't be there with it.
yeah, it's not possible, is it?
No.
We have to be willing. This is the path. There is no way out of the experience. There is a way to hold experience, but we're not getting out of anything. And can we recognize, even in the Tonglen practice, what did we say? We say, can I, if I can't feel or take in for the other, can I take in for myself feeling like this? Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Can I breathe in for all those just like me who don't want this, who are using ridiculous pith statements to get out of it, is what I was able to come up with. Can I feel for all those who are going to use these slogans as ways of getting out of the truth of suffering rather than open into the truth of suffering? Myself included, because there I was. Oh, well, what do you know, things happen. You know, we're going to die. La, la, la. All crap, by the way. What really I felt, and the truth of it that I woke up with also this morning, is the truth of suffering and its reality and how it really breaks us open if we let it. Otherwise, we cement up, we caulk over, we, right, to make it all okay. And I don't want us doing that. I don't want us doing that, truly. Don't practice if that's what you're doing with the practice. Do something else. And I understood, right, all the more Joko's saying to me, maybe Temis, like if you're going to just use the practice to distract, go find something else. And it was a most loving suggestion. Like, don't just caulk it up. That won't be helpful. And in fact, it isn't, is it? So it is with that. I want to just stop for a moment there before we go on quickly to explain our slogan for this week. It's one of my favorites, but I want to stop for a minute and see if there's any other feedback or experiences that you all have with this caulking over and the way we can use the practice to solidify and to separate rather than to open, because who likes pain? Annika, are you there?
Yeah. I wanted to say it's a tall order sometimes to take it all in. I found it helpful that you suggested to go in and out of it, so not sort of try to muscle through,
Yes.
but do the sending and receiving for a while, and then when you feel the brain wants to run away, to rest for a while, then go back to sending and receiving. So it was a little bit of a softer approach to.
Yes. Yeah,
because there is really a lot of suffering.
Yeah, we can overdo it. Can't we? We can think we have to. There's some solidifying egoic self in there, isn't there? Like, I've got to do it for an hour, or I got to do it till they're not in suffering, or I've got to do it till I'm happy, or some crazy. I got to do it till I can't do it and I fall apart. This is not.
Or I have to do it all. Nobody else can do it, but just me.
Exactly. It's one of my, I got to do it. No. And in fact, Kempo Carther, who was Lama Kathy's teacher, I heard him speak on this. And he actually said, only do the practice for a few breaths to begin. I couldn't believe it. Only do the practice for a few breaths to begin. That really, the beginning of the practice, the stabilizing intention and aspiration, the guru yoga, the taking in all of the, right, and the resting in Alya at the end was as important. Boy, do I get it.
Yeah.
Boy, do I get it now.
Yeah. So that was my takeaway, I think, for today, and in general, trying to do this, that I can't just say, okay, now I'm going to do it for 45 minutes. End of story. No.
Nope. And so did it feel workable today, Annika? Because we tried, I may have even done it longer than some people for sure. But did it feel like with our setup, with a few equalizing breaths and with the resting, that felt a little more spacious and workable?
Well, your timing was very, very perfect. It's precisely the moment where I started looking at my plants and saying, oh, I think they need water. And what about my hummingbird feeders? Was the moment where you said, and if you feel your brain going, you can just rest. And I was like, oh.
You don't even have to get productive.
Right. I don't have to hold it beyond what I can do.
You do not. In fact, you know, it's what happened to me yesterday, really, was I probably, had I paid really compassionate, gentle attention, it was on day 2 of this 9-day video where I could have said enough for now.
Yeah.
Okay. I can breathe this. I can equalize. I forgot about the equalizing nature of both I was just taking it in. She's getting weaker. She's getting more fearful. And I'm going to just have to take it in, have to solidifying, demanding something that is not real. And I feel so much sadness, really, at all of our need to become grandiose or arrogant or self-making in this way. And I did it. There I was going, I've got to stay. I've got 7 more days of this. Not at all. It was not skillful. It had a consequence that did not benefit me or those I love in any way. And I really, the point for me today is let's be careful and compassionate with ourselves, really critically. Because really we're unequalized. We're not equalized if we're giving it all to somebody else and not able to stay stable, steady, and available ourselves. So thank you. Yes, I think we're all doing it and running into the same dilemma, which is I can't do it. That's just one default. I can't. It's not true. It might just be a half a breath. That might be true. I can't turn towards suffering because I'll fall in my own. You're already in suffering, folks. So, oh, good news. It's already right here. You can just breathe in for yourself in that belief thought that I can't do any more, and stay with that. That right there becomes, begin with oneself is one of the slogans. And right there, here, start with me right here, thinking I've got to breathe in it all for everybody always. Or I can't breathe in any of it ever for anybody. And they're both delusions, and they're both false, and they're both solidifying. By the way, they're just taking on different sides of the self-making. So, right, I'm going to go to chat for a second. Thank you, Annika, and see if there's more. I will be sending out that document of the 59 slogans. Yes, you'll all be getting that. So now I want to talk briefly for just 5 minutes about the next slogan. I'm going to go back to the screen then of the 59 slogans that I'll send you. I'm going to get rid of chat. And so in point 2, the main heading of point 2 is the Bodhisattva trainings and the training of bodhicitta. And that's all of point 2. And it does attend to both absolute bodhicitta, I did both today, by the way, and relative bodhicitta, which is the Tonglen practice, the taking and sending on the medium of the breath. And you'll see that identified practice right there in slogan 7. And I even wrote relative bodhicitta so that you know these are all practices to do post-meditation on the spot every day. The above practices, we're not going to talk about those too much, but we did them. And you even heard me say rest in Alaya, which is that wide open, spacious presence. And boy, don't we need it. Don't we need that space? Don't we, Annika was saying it, don't we need that rest? If we don't have that available to us, this becomes a claustrophobic, overwhelming practice. See here in point 2, if you don't see anything else, that they began in absolute bodhicitta, in that wide open, spacious, radiant nature. That's the beginning. Then we can move into relative bodhicitta. That's the guru yoga. That's the resting in open, spacious awareness. those practices, slogan 2 through 6, even in post meditation, it says at the end, be a child of illusion. Create a lot of open space in which you can see the dreamlike quality of everything, the non-permanent, non-essential nature of everything. But we're going to move now to slogan 8. And that one is 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 roots of virtue. The really cool thing about them is that they are, in fact, the same 3 things. The difference is we are looking at different aspects, elements, or qualities, and we're also looking with a different mind. And so I think that's beautiful. We can actually go, oh, this quality of mind. So let's look at the 3 and see what they say. So the 3 objects, this is with everyday mind. What do we see? We see pleasant experiences, unpleasant experiences, and neutral experiences. Those are the objects. Now in the Hinayana, in the Theravadan training, what they say is everything comes with a taint. Every object that ever arises in awareness comes with a contaminant or a taint, and it is things we like, things we don't like, and things we completely don't even notice and ignore. That's the taint. And it says it's good in the Hinayana training. It says it's good to know that you're doing that and actually get fairly sophisticated about, oh, chocolate cake, for example, liking, wanting, right? And that in fact becomes the poison. A person who I don't think is very acknowledging of me, a person I don't think, or a person I think is judging me, a difficult situation, a moment of conflict or misunderstanding, that could be a negative experience. And then of course those that we miss. So those 3 objects are simply pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. The way they've written it here, the Tibetans wrote it as friends, enemies, and things we ignore, don't even notice. And so you may notice this week, because this is an on-the-spot practical training, you may notice, where do you feel friendly? Where do you feel connected? Where do you feel joyful? Where do you feel in connection? You can even use it that way. Where do you feel rejecting, judgmental, separating, right? That's often the enemies. And the neutral, very difficult, right? Because we don't even catch them. Well, from these 3 objects, and remember, there's no such thing as a solid object. So I'm using, for example, chocolate cake. That's my relationship to chocolate cake that's made that object pleasant or positive. That's and that's one of the poisons. So it says, when you see the 3 objects first, liking, not liking, and forgetting, not even connecting, or pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or friends, enemies, and all those others who I treat like furniture, what you'll also notice is a certain quality. Here's the quality. And these are called the 3 poisons. What I do with the positive is attach, cling, keep, and want, right? That's the poisons, attachment or craving. The poison that goes with the unpleasant is what? Rejecting, aversion, pushing away, trying to get rid of, to kill, to have ill will, to activate aggression, right? These is the poison in relationship to the enemy or to the unpleasant. And the poison in relationship to the neutral is often apathy, indifference, forgetting. I use the word treating like furniture, depersonalizing, dehumanizing. I think we do this a lot, I might add. I think we do it for others who have different politic than us. I think it's very easy to dehumanize another, and that's not even yet villainizing. right? And objectifying the other. But it's very easy to do. We forget the humanness. And so those are the poisons. And then the 3 roots of virtue. I love this. That right here, in recognizing our preference for the objects, our bias, our prejudice, in whatever ways we're showing that, recognizing the quality of mind, the grasping, clinging, rejecting, or indifferent nature of mind, we can then also right there on the spot convert it into virtue. How? By recognition. Oh, this is what's happening. Noticing the preferences, noticing the prejudice, noticing the opinions and the bias. By then naming or recognizing the attachment or aversion or indifference that's present there. By that very action itself, we are beginning to bring that light of awareness, now making that very craving a virtue, because in that moment of awareness, what it says is true. I know this for myself, is that it will become non-craving. In a moment of recognizing craving, seeing the truth of the nature of its suffering, seeing its lack of benefit to me and to others, I can then not crave. And in that non-craving, I am now cultivating the seeds of virtue.
Can I add something?
Yeah, let me add, Greg, before you go, we might call that seed of virtue something like what Greg said, openness. We might call it generosity. We might call it patience. We might call it compassion. Those would be just some of the examples of how in the recognition of the poison, we could respond, right? In a heart response with clarity. And I just want to make sure that we're not looking for one thing, that the virtue is being born by our very recognition. And I apologize, Greg, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say for myself, this is kind of the tricky part, because a lot of times what I want to do is just jump over to the remedy. And, you know, okay, I'm going to jump to the remedy and then I'm going to get rid of it, right? It's real easy to do that. And it's a tricky thing, because it's a default for me. I mean, I notice for myself it's a default. I just want to go, okay, I'm going to get rid of it and use the remedy to get rid of it. And really a lot of times have to sit with it long enough to really be, you know, right there with it.
That's right. And in fact, the slogan says, we're going to go back to our Hinayana training. We're going to go back to the Satipatthana here, aren't we? We're going back to the aggregates. We're going to notice objects. We're going to notice our attachment or aversion to them. And then in the recognition, we're going to rest so that the true remedy, generosity, compassion, openness, is available. But we are not very patient in this. I know it myself, Greg. The other thing is we are solution seekers. We are fixers. We are let's run in with the remedy. It's exactly right, because what we don't want to feel, that's exactly right, the distress, except these trainings say we have to. 3 objects, 3 poisons. We've got to check in on all of this. And then we allow and open to the remedy and to the virtue. I want to see what comes up for you as the true seed of virtue or the remedy. Is it generosity? Is it doing nothing but holding someone in compassion? Is it sending wishes for relief on the out breath? Is it actually taking an actionable item? And yes, these trainings say we rush in. We have a tendency to rush in. Even in relative bodhicitta, on the spot, there is work to do before we act. And this is what the 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 roots of virtue are offering us. By the way, remember, The virtue is not defined here. It doesn't say, and then you become generous. It doesn't say, and then you become, it says, the seeds for goodness have been planted by your recognition of your relationship in attachment and aversion. You're already on the way to cultivating the seeds of virtue. And then I'd like to hear next week what you saw. What did happen? Did you take an action? What was it? Was there a quality of mind? What was it? How was it? And remember, the action I took yesterday was simply one, self-compassion, acknowledging my own distress, my own overwhelm, my own feeling beside myself, not in a taking one stand for oneself, but having overwhelmed oneself and really needing to do that work first so that I could then feel that for others. And that's how we came up with the practice today. Okay, 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 roots of virtue. That's the slogan for the rest of this week. See if you don't notice. What are you attaching to? What are you rejecting? What's the result? And then if we can stay with it, breathe with it, be with it, what seeds of goodness are planted. Wonderful. We're already out of time. Why don't we sit together for just a moment? Thank you, everyone. Let's do this so that we can complete our practice this morning. And so finding your way back to the physical body for just a moment. You got to be glued enough together. Isn't that funny? You have to glue yourself enough together that you can dissolve it. It's an interesting equalizer all of its own. So we just feel the bottom, the base of the body, the uprightness. We soften the front of the body, simply resting. We can picture those points of light or that crucible of light resting in our heart space. We could reignite and reinvite the heart of bodhicitta, letting it move in all directions. Nothing to do. Nothing to do but open and rest. That could be a slogan all of its own. Nothing to do first, but open and rest in that open space. And may we dedicate the heart mind that fills that open space. May we dedicate those points of radiant light filled with goodness, filled with love and compassion. May we offer this continuously, sending it out in all directions as often as we can towards the end of suffering and the realization of true happiness, freedom, and awakening. May we gather the merits of this practice and send them out with the out-breath. May we all have happiness and the causes for happiness. Touching into the heart of bodhicitta and sending it out. May we all be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May we breathe that in when we're able, and breathing in what we're able, in the amount we are able, for the time we are able. without doing damage to ourselves. And may we send out that relief. May we rejoice at the blessings and the goodness that have been offered to us throughout all time. And may we breathe that out. May we send out our wealth in all directions. It doesn't mean we have to give everything up. It means we wish for that same joy, that same ease, and we act so as to contribute to that. We're happy for others' happiness, and we work to contribute to it without doing damage to ourselves, which is not helpful. Equalizing on the in-breath and the out-breath. And may we rest in wisdom and compassion, the two essential arms of equanimity, propagating the seeds of virtue, non-craving, non-clinging, non-aggression, non-reactivity, non-delusion. And then simply rest in the bright light of awareness, love, and compassion. May this practice today contribute. May we all be free. May we all awaken. So be it. Thank you so much for being here with me. It's lovely to see you all. 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 seeds of virtue. Keep saying it, see how you notice it showing up, and see if you can't also rest in that open space of awareness, offering that first to yourself. We need that space for ourselves as well. So please don't forget to do that like I did yesterday. It has consequences that are not of benefit. So let's be equalizing, offering to ourselves and others equally so that we don't become overwhelmed or flooded. I look forward to seeing you Monday evening at 8. There will be a newsletter this Sunday. Greg will be starting again. Yay, Greg. We'll be starting Thursday morning meditation, right, Greg?
Looking forward to it very much.
Yep, this Thursday at 7 a.m.
That's right.
Greg's back on. Greg and I had brilliant, spontaneous
Combustion.
We're like, we need to get back to that. We'll be talking about that in the next few weeks, about getting back to a little more practice. I think we need support and we need each other. I think more. This is not going away soon. I think we need to continue. So we'll be talking about how to be bringing that back, some of the practices. I'm very excited by that. And also I am looking into going into a week at least, if not 2, of silent sitting retreat sometime in the next month. And I'm working with Quest Haven, and they are looking for a space for me. They're so delightful and committed to us, which I feel very inspired by, that they're going to try to come up with a space. So we'll talk more about that as it's happening.
Will they have an opportunity? Will we have an opportunity while you're up there to come up and meditate with you? Okay.
Yes, as long as it's me doing all the navigating and opening the gate and stuff, which will be no problem at all.
I would think so. That's great. Wonderful. Thank you.
I know, it is wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to that. I feel a deep need for that practice for us all. And so I will keep you all posted about that. I should hear within the next day about when that time might be. So thank you all so much. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for being here. What I want to say to Annika, me, and everyone is really there are moments when we're going to fall over. There are moments when we're going to be able to hold it all, and they all matter. So however it's going right now, this is a very tough practice. Just know your very willingness to be here counts and is important. And if what you can do is breathe in for yourself and your suffering, just know that that's the perfect beginning. So I want to say love to all of you, blessings as well. Have a beautiful weekend. I will see you on Monday evening. So blessings to you all. I will leave the chat on for a few moments, and then I will be sending everyone those 59 slogans so that we can look at them together. Be well.